Good morning, sir.
Yes. So please send messages in our groups to immediately join.
Yes, sir.
Shh.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi,
Ma'am, I'm Ishita. We would be beginning with the session shortly.
that's all right. Thank you. Do you want me to be on video or hop off or, what is
Uh,
everyone?
as you wish, ma'am.
Okay.
Hi, Mrinalini.
Hey, Shweta, what's up? It's been a
What's
while.
up? I know, Raz. How are you?
All well. How are you?
Good, good, good. Good to see you here.
Yep. Likewise.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi,
Uh,
hi.
Ma'am, I'm Ishita. Rama ready, sir? So both the speakers are here. Should we begin with the session? Sir,
Yes. Good morning. Good morning to Mrunalini and Shweta. How are you
Hi,
both?
sir.
Very.
All well. How are you doing?
Yeah, we are very fine. Except that in the second wave of COVID-19, we all were infected. My whole family.
Oh,
And fortunately, we all recovered. Yes. So, how are you, Mrunalini?
all well, sir.
Okay.
All well.
And how about Shweta? I have attended Mrunalini's marriage, so somehow I am in contact with her. Shweta, almost out of our radar for last 14 years.
Well, I'm back now, sir. Happy to be here. All good. Just had a baby, so life is exciting.
Okay, very good, very good. I think Ishita, you can go ahead.
Sure, sir. Good morning, everyone present here. I welcome you to the Alumni Inspire session. I'm Ishita Singh, Secretary of Outreach for the Economics Association. Before I share more about the session, I'd like to introduce our Economics Department and the Association. The Economics Department of Sri Venkateswara College is one of the most highly regarded academic units in the University of Delhi and has not only produced a dynamic set of alumni but has also seen great academicians and scholars grace the corridors of the college as professors. Apart from academics, the department's day-to-day functioning as an administrative and extracurricular unit is handled by the Economics Association. The Economics Association of Sri Venkateswara College is a group of dynamic individuals committed to ensuring the smooth functioning of departmental operations, activities, and events. Managed by the students of the Economics Department under the purview of teaching faculty, it oversees a wide range of spheres from the conduction of academic seminars and alumni session to hosting of inter-college competitions. To smoothen functioning, the association has a highly organized structure spread across departments ranging from marketing to sponsorship, each led by secretaries who are in turn supervised by senior core council comprising of final year students. The association also organizes annual fest of the economics department, Bliss Point, a well-regarded event in the undergraduate circuit. I'd now like to invite our teacher in charge, Dr. Brahma Reddy sir, to speak a few words.
Thank you, Ishita.
Thank you, sir.
This is the second event we are organizing for the benefit of all the present students. The name of this event is aptly titled as Inspire. That is, inspiration. When we thought of who can best inspire our current students, as a teachers, we regularly interact with you, our faces so familiar, so much with the familiarity. So we thought, in addition to that, the best people whom you can take as a role model is your own alumni from the department. So this thought came to us in 2016-17. We began with the event. It has been a grand success till date. I'll be very happy to share with both Shweta and Mrunalini the largest number of students from 2007 only has been invited so far. I think about 20 plus out of 80. That was a very large batch, as I have shared with the present students in the past as well. But very, very dynamic. All are too academic. They don't, spend or waste time. Either they'll be doing some academic activity in the college. If they are there, they regularly attend classes. One thing I keep repeating is that they are very regular in classes. Despite that, they have, ambitions like preparing for management entrance exam. They take very, very long, small test. Test is very small in terms of, its weightage in overall assessment in the university examination. But they do take, 2 to 2.5 long tests for just 2 marks, 2.5 mark. Ultimately, its weight is 2 or 2.5 mark out of 50 or 100. They had that patience. They have been trained. But today I see even for a 10 mark internal test out of 100 marks, people just want to finish in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. This is one thing I see a clear cut, a change that has come over, period of, let's say 10 years or 15 years. So both of them have been academically super. I don't have the attendance record with me right now. It is there somewhere in the cupboard. Mrunalini has been very active in Economics Association. I have been there in association for 2006, 7 and 7, 8 as the faculty advisor. One that in 6, 7 they were in their final year. So I saw Mrunal even before that. She has been very active in Economics Association. And during that time only, the Bliss Point, our flagship event, went national for the first time. We had a great participation from major cities like Pune, Chennai, Kolkata. That in fact built the image of the Economics Association, and we continued with that a tradition of conducting national level event. Shweta has been very studious. I had very little interaction. I don't know the reason why. Maybe she simply after classes she will disappear and go for, I think, preparation for management and other exams. But I saw Mrunalini a lot of time she spends in college after the classes. And as you know, both of them have been doing exceptionally well. I attended Mrunalini's marriage that was held at, I think, Hyatt, right, Mrunalini?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Hyatt. I think, although Nikhil also invited me to his marriage, I could not attend. But in case of Mrunalini, myself and Krishna, we both attended. And we are very happy to see all of you, not only progressing tremendously in career, but also, her personal life. Shweta has just shared a sweet news that she just had a baby. Okay. So we wish that you all continue to do well and inspire generations of students who will be coming to our department. It has been 15 years, 14 years exactly. 15th is going on. So 14 years, 14 batches more have passed out. And we are planning to have a proper alumni association with a proper structure, with proper duties and responsibilities, so that we build a formal network of our alumni who are spread in Americas, including I know from the batch of 2008 there is this Debashish Badra. He's in Mexico. Some of you must be knowing Debashish. He is your immediate junior, right? So there are few people who settled in Australia, few settled in Singapore after completing, masters in National University of Singapore. I don't know about Africa. There may be people who are working in Africa in many of the multinationals who have, their operations in Africa. So I would, take this opportunity to request Mrunalini to take lead. I'm sure at least there are 30-40 people, Mrunalini, in America and Canada. I think in these regions, at least I know 10 people, whom I know by name and by face. There may be a lot more people who have, subsequently went to USA. So after this session, formally we would nominate Mrunalini as the coordinator for, America's alumni coordinator. We'll be coming up with a proper structure, and even for Delhi also, we would have a lot of people whom we will be, taking their help in building a strong alumni network, which will be very useful in career progression for our own students. So thank you very much for joining this event. I'm sure you also will enjoy this session with our very ambitious students we are getting, like we used to get in the past. Thank you so much.
Today we have with us two of our distinguished alumni. We believe having an active alumni network is immensely beneficial to the students, as they can benefit in their professional lives by learning from senior alumni, getting to hear about interesting job opportunities, challenges, and the invaluable experience they have gained over the years. We have with us Ms. Shweta Gupta, who is currently the Supply Chain HR Leader, Gillette India, and India Supply Chain D&I Leader at Procter & Gamble, and Ms. Mrinalini Krishna, Senior Investing Editor at a New York-based personal finance website. We welcome you, ma'am. I would now briefly explain how the session would go about. Each alumni would be invited to speak. Ms. Shweta would go first, then Ms. Mrinalini can go, and then we would have the question and answer session right after that. Now I would like to call Ms. Shweta. Ms. Shweta has more than 12 years of experience in the corporate world. Currently, she is the Supply Chain HR Leader, Gillette India, and India Supply Chain D&I Leader at Procter & Gamble. She is an economics graduate from Sri Venkateswara College and holds an MBA degree from ex-LRI Jamshedpur. Ma'am, please take over to share your professional journey with us.
Thank you, Ishita. Hi, Mrinalini. Good to see you again. And thank you, Reddy sir, for that lovely introduction. And I'm glad you think that I was disappearing off to coaching classes after college. So good. Let's keep up with that. Perfect. Okay, thank you. I think, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now because it's really been so long and all kinds of lovely memories are coming up as, I sit here with one of my friends and batchmates, and of course, all of you, and our Professor Reddy sir. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here today, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to really reconnect with all of you after so many long years. Right? Happy to be here, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit today about myself. But as I was speaking with Ishita, my style really is more as much interaction as possible. Having been in the corporate world, as you call it, for the last many years, I know sometimes that's hard. And I know I'm all too familiar with all those awkward silences. But, I do request all of you, the more interactive, because I really don't have too much of material or content or slides. Right, I have a few which I will run through quickly with you, but I'm really hoping that all of you have tons and tons of questions to ask, and that way we can all learn from each other. Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen in just a minute. Ishita, would you let me know if you can see it, please? Okay, just 1 second. Just give me a second, please. Can you see my screen? I don't. Oh, yeah, there it is. I've been on maternity leave for the last 4 months, and clearly a lot has changed in Teams over the last 4 months. So good. It's a good refresher for me as well. Ishita, can you see my slides in presenter mode, in audience mode, or can you see a presenter mode?
Pam, actually, I cannot see the slides because it's just black for me. Maybe it's my internet connection.
Yeah, slide is visible. My life map.
Okay, perfect. Can you see my screen?
Yes, now it's
Lovely. Okay, so yes, I thought the brief I was given was to share a little bit about my journey. And I think my journey includes both professional and personal highlights. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit of that with all of you, right? Thank you again for taking the time. And before I get in, I really just want to get a sense from all of you here, right? I mean, it's a Saturday morning, it's 10 a.m. I'm sure everybody's had a good Friday night. So you're clearly spending to, choosing to spend some time here early in the morning. So if I could just hear from maybe a few of you on why is it that you're here today? What do you hope to get out of the session? I'm very good at people putting people on the
Basically,
spot.
the reason for me to be
Yes, please. Oh, we have a comment. Great.
here today, ma'am, was
Yes.
that this journey is going to be completely new one. So we have no idea that how everything's going to be. So it's basically very wonderful to hear from you about the things that we're going to experience.
Okay, thank you. If you could just tell me what your name is and which year you are in.
Ma'am, I'm Saksham Yadav. I'm a fresher.
Hi, Saksham. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else, if there's something
Thank
specific
you,
you're
ma'am.
looking for? Okay. So maybe we'll warm up as we go along, right? And at least why I'm here is that I'd like to learn from you, and B, in my limited capacity, be able to provide you any highlights, any opinions, any perspectives that you need, both from a professional or a personal standpoint. So please feel free. I know some of you have submitted questions to Ishita, so thank you. We will be addressing all of those. But feel free to ask me anything that's top of mind. Okay, it doesn't have to be politically correct at all. And you can ask me, interrupt me, in the middle while I'm speaking, or we'll do a Q&A in the end, however you'd like it. Okay. Okay, so before I get into my professional journey, this is a little bit about me. Like many of you, I'm assuming on this call, I also belong to Delhi. I've spent most of my schooling life here, but I have moved around a lot as well. I'm from XLRI Jamshedpur. I'm married to a batchmate from Excel. And like I said, I've just had a baby. She's about 4.5, a little more than 4.5 months old. So currently it's a whole new learning, and I'm applying a lot of my academic and professional knowledge to raising her. It's good fun. It's something very new for me. I've moved around a lot, right? And I'm not going to read out all the locations, but my dad was also in a corporate job, which required us to relocate every couple of years, right? So that list is there for you to see. I'm currently based in Gurgaon, but I've just finished a current assignment in Procter & Gamble, and now I'm awaiting my next adventure, right? Personally, I have quite a few interests. I love doing yoga. I like watching movies. Now, thanks to the lockdown, lifting, we're back to the cinema halls. In fact, I just watched The Eternals last night with my husband, and I was a little disappointed, but more on that later. I enjoy red wine, and not just drinking it. I enjoy educating myself about it as well. How to taste it, how to smell it, how to identify various regions. I do like spending a lot of time on that. I love traveling. Unfortunately, thanks to COVID, for the last 1.5 years, that's come to a standstill. I enjoy. Ishita, I'm getting a little bit of noise. Is that just me?
No, ma'am. Now it's muted.
Perfect. I also enjoy keeping in touch with current affairs, international affairs, right? So I keep myself up to date on that. Just right now, updating myself on what's happening with our Chinese Communist Party. It has just completed 100 years of existence. So stuff like that. And I'm currently also reviving my reading habit. I think as one gets busier with life, this is one thing that goes away. But I'm trying very hard that every night before I sleep, at least half an hour I invest. And I'm already, finding a lot of benefit in that. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, that's my family. That's my husband. That's me. Festive greetings from all of us. And we just celebrated Diwali. So, and a lot of other nice festivals are coming up. So, wish you and your families very happy Diwali, New Year, and everything that's coming up. Yes, so that's a little bit about me personally. Coming to my professional journey, which I think all of you are here to listen to. I actually finished school. So I've moved around a lot, but I finished high school in Delhi Public School, Vasant Kunj. Anybody from DPS VK in the call today? Okay. Like all of you, I graduated in economics from Venki in 2007. That time we were a batch of 80 or 83. I'm not sure what it is now. Post that, I went on to do an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. The cat bug, so to say, also bit me. So I did that, and 2008 to 10, I did an MBA. And what I did in that 1 year in the middle, I will let you know. As most of you would know, a part of the MBA also involves doing a summer internship. So I interned with Procter & Gamble Singapore in 2009. And I really enjoyed working with them. I really loved the company, and I think they liked me too. So that got converted into a final offer. And in fact, interestingly, P&G is the only company I've ever worked for, because I didn't work after graduation. I was one of those freshers who went straight to an MBA. And this used to be a day zero company. I think it still is. Yeah, it still is. And this was actually the first interview and process I sat for, and I got through. And when you guys join your respective business schools, those of you who choose to, you will understand how strict the placement committee is in terms of sign-offs and stuff like that. So if you get an offer on day zero, you can't, and if it's your top pick, you really can't sit for too many more companies. So long story short, I accepted this internship offer, and it was really good fun because I got to work for the first time And not only did I get to work, I got to work in a very nice, big, large global organization. And I got to work in the regional headquarters in Singapore. So it was a little intimidating, but it was also, I think, a huge learning experience, right? So I really, really enjoyed that. I was pretty clear that I would love to work with them if they are interested in offering me a job. And thankfully that happened. There's a story there too, which I will let you know shortly. And in April 2010, when I graduated, I joined the company. And I'm currently a director there in human resources. I work in a very, very diverse, it's an extremely global company. It's a very, very matrixed environment, which means I have tons and tons of bosses, lots and lots of stakeholders, and I have to influence each one of them. So it's always a lot of learning, always challenging, and always a lot of fun. I've been there for 11 years plus. I've just finished my 4th role there. So one of the things that P&G does is, they keep, every time you get too comfortable doing a certain job, they just move you around. So approximately, we spend about 2.5 to 3 years on every assignment that we do. So I've just finished my 4th assignment in June. Currently, like I said, I'm on enjoying my maternity leave. I've lived across 3 locations so far, and I've had actually 8 bosses. I was counting, when I was putting this material together. In 11 years, I've had 8 bosses. And again, a lot of learning there because I think I've worked with such a diversity in terms of nationality, in terms of gender, in terms of religion, you name it, it's there. And I think I've learned so much from all these people I've worked with. Okay, so that's a little bit about a very top level of, I think fairly straightforward. I haven't done anything very exotic like I think a lot of you are planning to do now with all these lovely startups and tech companies and influencer careers that are coming up. But this is about me professionally. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay, no problem. Okay. And I promise this is my last slide about myself. I was asked to share what I think has worked for me, right? And these are, I know it's a lot, but I think at different points of time, I do try and practice each of these things as much as possible, both, in my personal capacity as well as when I'm working in an organization and also as a student, right? And I think these are the things that have really worked for me. First and foremost, guys, I think it's very important to be disciplined. Okay, I mean, wherever you go, whether you're in school, whether you're in college, whether you're working, you're not going to get a chance to do a lot of the higher order stuff if you don't have credibility. And I think the best way of losing credibility is just not delivering on what you've promised, right? So pick out the 2, 3, 4, 5 really important things. Do what really matters at any given point of time. And I think for you, your lives have just begun. As you grow older, your life stages will change. There'll be so many priorities to choose from. I think pick out the ones that are most important to you and then really go for it, right? And these are my tips. I'm all about checklists and to-do lists and calendars and invites. In fact, I send my husband invites for stuff, whether it's a vacation or it's a dinner at somebody's house or it's my kid's vaccination or whatever it is. So I take it to the next level. I'm not saying that you need to do that, but I think it keeps me focused and I'm able to make sure that I don't miss out on any of the important commitments that I've made to anybody, including myself, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Number 2, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this more. I think specifically in our society, we're always taught that it's important to be successful. And, as I'm looking at this slide, the title is also my tips for success. But I think having said that, I cannot tell you how important it is to fail and fail really fast. Right. I think I have learned more and I will share 2 very relevant stories to you right after this of pretty miserable failures, feeling very, very bad about myself, seeing everybody around me doing better than what I'm doing. And I just decided to take it in my stride, buckle down and make things happen for me. And I think I learned more from those experiences than I did from, all the things that I've done well. And in fact, I was reading up on this. I'm a big believer in this. And I was reading up, I think it's one of the armies in the world. I think it's the Australian army or a big nation like that, where when they're recruiting the NSG, the National Security Guard commando equivalents in their country, they don't look at, when they look at resumes and they look at profiles, they don't look at how successful this person has been. They look at how many times this person has failed and what the person has gotten out of that failure, what the learnings have been and what the person has been after that failure point, right? So a lot of learnings from failing very quickly, but I think it's important to fail fast and fail differently, right? I can tell you in the recent past, one of the highest ratings I've got while I was with PNG is when I shut down more projects than I completed. And I think the reason I still got such high ratings is because I was able to quickly understand that, okay, I tried to do something big, try to do something different. For whatever reasons, it is not working. Having the courage to say this is not going to work. If we spend more time on this, it's going to be a sunk cost. Or if you're economic students, you know what sunk cost is. And we need to shut this down and we need to learn from it and we need to move on, right? So I think that's the second one. Huge believer in the growth mindset. And this is not just a PNG theory. This is something that is, I think, available out there in popular literature, right? Do Google it. I love it. I love this line that it can't be done yet, right? And I try and put this in whatever I do, just for you to know. Currently, when I moved here to Gurgaon about 3 years ago, I moved here because I was getting a good opportunity with a promotion. And my husband at the same time got a very good job in Malaysia. My husband works with McKinsey. He's a junior partner there. And so it was a great career move for both of us, but it meant that we'd have to be a split family. And at that time, we were very clear that, from a career standpoint, this makes sense. So guess what? We did, and I'm not saying this is the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but we did decide to live split family because at that time we wanted to prioritize our careers. COVID happened, a baby happened. My husband was in Malaysia. He did come back, right? And now I'm awaiting my next adventure. And everybody around me told me that, oh, it's so hard, 2 careers, you need to move globally. There's a child in the mix. How are you going to make it happen? But I can't share too much right now, but I can tell you that if you stay at it and if you keep pushing the boundaries, things do fall in place, right? Be super hungry, right? Whether it is for change, whether it is for innovation. I'm a big believer in this. So whatever you do, do it with a big bang. Don't be a middler, right? Either be really good at whatever you're doing or really, really bad. Either way, people should talk about you, right? So try not to be on the very bad, end of the spectrum, but really do go big or go home, right? You should notice yourself. The world should notice you, right? So keep that hunger alive. And I think, a lot of people tell you, okay, your best years are only when you're in college in your 20s. I can tell you your best years are what you make of them, right? There's always so much to do. There's always so much to learn. There's always so much to grow, right? So I keep clamoring for that change. And I think it helps me grow a lot as a person. As Reddy sir called out, I think very important to be ambitious. And more importantly, don't be afraid to call it out, right? Sometimes we're shy of calling out what matters to us, right? Whether it is marks. I remember in school, in college, we all love getting great marks, right? But none of us want to accept that we are burning the midnight oil to do what it takes to be top of class on the top 10 or the top 5 percentile or whatever it is, right? Similarly, at work, we all love getting ratings. We all love getting promotions. But we don't want to bring it, we don't want to call it out. And this is something that I'm not scared to call out at all. So in my company, for example, we have these career conversations twice a year. And I'm extremely clear that, success for me is, of course, learning and meeting new people and collaborating and influencing and all of that. But to me, what matters the most is to be really highly rated and to grow as quickly as I want. Because the more you put it yourself out there, it's not about being pompous or, boasting or things like that. I think the more clear you are about what matters to you, what your value drivers are, the more, people who are invested in you, your careers, your academic journey will be able to help you, right? So be specific, be clear, and be comfortable in very clearly saying that you want to be ambitious. Work-life integration. I think today it's between college and some extracurricular activities and, the stuff you do at home. As you grow older, there's going to be a lot more on your plate, right? You're going to get out, you're going to go for higher studies. Some of you may get married, some of you may choose to have children, you'll have jobs. right? So there'll be fitness goals right now. All if you are really young, you don't have to really think about being fit, managing your diet, managing your water. Believe me, the list is endless. I think it's very important to be able to integrate all these things. And why I use the word work-life integration and not balance is because with integration, right? I mean, balance to me is that every day I have a set hour to do each one of these things that are important to me, right? No matter what requires my attention at that time. What I've realized through my life so far is that that doesn't always work, right? I choose to take a slightly more macro picture, step back and say, okay, give what requires your attention the most at that point, spend time on that. But overall, over a period of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, whatever your time frame is, you should lead an integrative, wholesome life, right? And so in an overall picture, you've been able to give your attention to the things that matter to you the most at the right time, right? So it's not about that day, not that minute. Don't stress yourself out that I had half an hour out, for this project or this presentation or this exercise and I couldn't do it. It's important that you look at life holistically, right? And that's what I mean by work-life integration. And last but not the least, I can't stress this enough. Please don't be afraid to be different. Okay, all of us are unique and there will be enough people, a lot of pressure always to tell you that, okay, maybe you need to be more aggressive, or maybe you need to be less aggressive, or maybe you need to, work harder on this, or, so many different things. But be yourself, right? Play on your unique strengths always, because only you can be you, right? And believe me, as you will grow older, you will realize there's always a lot of pressure to be something that you're not. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whatever it is, right? But remember what your strengths are and how you can play on your strengths. Okay. So that's a little bit on my tips for success, right? Whatever little I've learned through my life so far. Is there any question, comment, aha moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, so first of all, a lot of optimism is being vibrated from you. And I have a question regarding that only.
Yes.
So, did you have this optimism since the beginning, or it was some kind of a turning point in your life where you acquired so much of optimism? So, can you please answer that if it's not too personal?
No, it's not personal at all. I'm here to share, my personal point of view. Thanks for the question. May I know your name, please?
My name is Naman.
Sumit.
Naman.
Thanks, Naman. Sorry, I think that's my internet. No, I don't know if it's positivity or negativity. I think I've always been quite realistic, Naman. But I think the one thing that has worked for me is that my locus of control is always very internal, right? So if there's any situation, and I can take a college example as well, right? I mean, you will see people who are ahead of you academically, extracurricular. There will be people who are in society. Somebody may be in 10 societies, somebody maybe in 5, some may be in none. Right. So it's very easy to get swayed by, what others are doing. I think what keeps me happy and sane is that I always focus on what's important to me, what my personal goals are, and have I done my best to achieve them or not. What I hate is if I feel that I've done a half job or something. If I've done my best and if I still don't do very well at it, I'm fine. I sleep easy. So I think that may be that may be the reason behind my optimism, if you see any.
That's really good. Even I also personally felt this peer pressure kind of in first year that everybody is joining these societies, they are doing that. And but later on, like I realized the true essence that I need to do what makes me sane.
Exactly, right? What's your interest? What journey you're creating for yourself? How much time you have? I think everything else falls in place. And when you speak with your conviction, then everybody else gets it.
Yeah, totally right.
I used to be in the Economics Association and the Debating Society, by the way, when I was in Venki.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
And how was the college life?
If Reddy sir wasn't here, then I would have given you a different answer.
Okay.
So it was great. I really enjoyed. By college, I assume you mean my graduate life, right?
Yeah, because we are really missing that right now.
Oh yeah, no, it was lovely. I think I made some of my closest friends. Couple of things, right? One, I loved the course that I did. I loved economics, and believe me, it puts me in good stead even today. I think we had fantastic teachers. I learned so much from them. The subjects itself was so good, and now especially because I work in HR and I work with talent across the country and the globe as well. I can tell you the way DU courses are designed. I think we and I think maybe Calcutta University are the only universities that at an undergraduate level go into so much depth, right? You can specialize at a BA level as well, and that really was it keeps me in good stead even today, right? And especially today also I'm able to have a lot of intelligent conversation because of the concepts I picked up. By the way, uh, especially macroeconomics. Even in a business scenario, you're able to contribute intelligently to a large extent because of the solid knowledge base that you learn when you're doing BA economics in DU. That was one. Number two, I think I made some fantastic friends. So Mrinalini will know we had a huge, and she used to be a part of that group as well. We were all a part of one group. We were a nice big group of 20, 25 people. Of course, that's petered down now, but I think some of our most fun times were just hanging around with each other in the back lawns. I don't know if they call it that even now. And there used to be this good
I believe
canteen.
there's a building now. I
Oh,
believe
there
there's a
is.
building where back loans used to stand. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we spent a lot of time in those back lawns, and I remember Himmat Bhaiya getting us nice diesel chow mein that we
Idli
used to call it,
and idli vada. So
and idli vada. So I think lot of, and I think it was just a very carefree, fun time, right? And don't. I think make the most of this time because this is the most fun time you're going to have in your life. I mean, of course, things get there are a lot of great things that happen after that as well. But I think just the innocence, the freedom, the fun of it all, I don't think that comes back. So all in all, yeah, I think it was great. And a lot of the friendships and the bonds that I made back in Venki are they continue to be my my best friends even today, right? Even after so many years. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, Shweta, you were the first one to take admission in that batch, right? You remember your roll number?
roll number one.
Yes.
Yeah, roll number one.
Yes.
So no teacher can ignore roll number one. We see whether present or absent. We look at also whether the person is there inside the class or not. For the middle and other roll numbers, we just call. If we hear yes, we put the yes attendance. No response means absent. Okay.
Yes.
And let me tell you, I have one document with me. You and Ritika Khera.
Yes.
Have done a project in macroeconomics, one of the most favorite subjects to any macroeconomic student, including teachers. That is on capital mobility and stabilization policy under fixed and flexible exchange rates by Robert Mundell. I don't know how much you remember.
It's coming back to me, sir, but I'm so touched that you remember.
Yeah, I have the document with me. I keep certain documents for future reference. In
Wow.
fact, Mrunalini also, she is Mrunalini's roll number is roll number 36. Am I right, Mrunalini?
Yes, sir. That sounds about right.
Yeah, you are 36 and before you is Tanvi, 34. Tanvi Kaur. After you, it is Kanika, roll number 37. So 36 and roll number 30. Who is roll number 30?
Manjari Lakshmanan, sir.
Manjari Lakshmanan. You did both also equally a wonderful project. That is the monetary dynamics of international adjustment under fixed and flexible exchange rates, again by Robert Mundell, who was a Nobel laureate. And in fact, Robert Mundell, a Canadian, was awarded Nobel Prize for his fundamental contributions to open economy macroeconomics. For his contribution to enable us understand how monetary fiscal policy work under fixed and flexible exchange rates. For this work, he was given Nobel laureate. I'm very happy that you all have done so wonderful, projects at that time. In fact, all these go into building up your capabilities. We don't remember each and everything. Something will be there, at the back of our mind, which will prompt us do things. Am I right?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah. So Very good presentation by Shweta. Shweta, my question is to you. As I told you, my observation, you immediately disappear after classes for preparing for exam and other competitive exam, and you are free to speak. I have heard you saying that, Reddy sir is there, so I won't be revealing. So speak. All that is now, past, good or bad. Okay, it's not that, we all are perfect. There is a level of perfection in each and every individual. We are all learning. We may not be doing, intentionally anything wrong, but also many times unintentionally, we don't know people, we don't know people's mindset, we don't know their emotions, etc. So we may cause trouble to others. But once we realize we shouldn't be, doing the same thing, you are free to speak. That is the purpose of this interaction. Many things, we realize after the end of our life. When we reach 65, 70, we realize everything. But what is the use of it? And, today's youth also, when you elders advise, many don't listen also, right? Whom do they listen? What my understanding assessment is that they listen to their immediate seniors or immediate peers, because they are the people who have laid down a path and they have traveled. So when you share your experience, like Naman, he was very, very, very good in academics, and he is also very ambitious like you. One thing I noticed in you is that you are very ambitious. You're very quiet and you do your task and, then go off. You may have been very active in other societies, but when it comes to the academic part, unlike many people who sit for, even tutorials, even in the afternoons, probably my observation, maybe my memory is not that good. I didn't find, in many of the tutorials, but many people do attend tutorials. So this has been, my observations. Shweta, my question to you is that why did you go to Jamshedpur? The institute name, I think along with you, there was one more, Divya Krishna Kishan.
Divya Krishnan, yes.
Yeah,
She was 1 year my senior.
Yes, I heard she was going there. But you see, it is XLRI, that is Xavier Labor Relation Institute. Labor, the word the first thing that we, when we hear the word labor, we think, it's a physical labor. So who will do it? We keep, we feel some kind of a kind of an untouchability, So this is all about that. But, I was really, amazed to know that, you also went to Labor Institute. Where people want to go for HR, people want to go for finance, marketing, very, very, very fashionable also to say and hear these words. So what prompted you to go there? Did you not get some other opportunities to go for MBA?
Thank you, sir, for that question. And actually, just to clarify a little bit, because I think a lot of people may have this question as well. I think XLRI started off, it was started off by Tata Steel in Jamshedpur as an institute mostly to, define, create great labor practices and standards. Over the years, it has become a regular MBA school, right? So they have 2 courses there. I'm sure a lot of you already know that, whoever is preparing for business school. So they have standard business school courses there. So, sir, I wish I had a better answer, but I went to Excel because it was a very good business school. And I went there to do a standard MBA, right? And I think the whole aspect of labor relations, has gone down a little bit. In fact, now it's been renamed for exactly this reason. Because a lot of people, I think, still have this thinking. It's now actually called XLRI School of Management. So they have dropped the Labor Relations Institute tag completely, because now it's a regular business school like any other. And I went there because it was a top business school in the country and I got through. And I really wanted to do an MBA.
Okay. So the labor content was, limited, not to the extent it is named as Labor Institute, right?
Yeah, this is in 1949 when it started, sir. That's when it was set up by the Tatas to define and create labor standards. But after that, it's been I think since the 70s, it's been a normal business school.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
So have you been to any other, second masters? You have any plans for that?
No, I haven't done a second master's. I keep doing courses. So I just finished something with my company from Harvard Business School. But no plans as yet to do higher studies, but I do dream someday that maybe I will go and do an MPhil and a PhD in a good campus. But let's see if that happens. Currently, I plan to work.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So students, please ask questions, whatever you think. Don't think that, it may not be a perfect question. It may sound, not so intelligent, but still you can ask. That is the, the platform is meant for that. Not that you have to be always correct and, right and intelligent. Okay.
Okay, I'm conscious of the time, Ishita, because I know Mrinalini has a lot of interesting stuff to share. So do I have another 2 minutes? Or
Yeah, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. So, like I said, guys, I mean, I think this is the one thing I really do hold very close to my heart. I think it's very, very important to fail. And I thought before I close this and we do question answers, I wanted to share 2 failure stories with you. Okay, I know you hear a lot of success stories from a lot of people, and that's great. I think it's important to, but I think it's also important to understand that people around you fail. And it's more importantly, it's very okay to do so. And most importantly, you will get out of it and life will look up again, right? So 2 quick examples and stories I wanted to share, and after which I'll hand over to Mrinalini. I think one is, when I was in Venkateshwara College, right, I had decided I wanted to go to a business school. If you notice, there's a so-called one gap year, right? I finished college in 2007, but I went to B school only in 2008. Right. And very honestly, I can put it out there. I didn't get the institutes of my choice. Right. And why I didn't get the institutes of my choice is because I didn't get the percentiles. So my GDPI, group discussion, personal interview, all of that used to always be good. But my written interview exam scores were just not high enough to get through a top 5 business school. And I had made up my mind that I want to get into a top 5 business school of the country. Right. And it was painful, right? Because I saw a lot of people around me in my in college in Venki. We had a very bright batch doing extremely well, moving on to really good jobs, moving on to really good institutes, really good schools after that. And I had nothing. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a college of my choice. And I was just sitting at home, right? But it felt terrible. I did feel like a failure. And I also come from a family which is very academically inclined, right? So all of that didn't help at all, right? So it was definitely one of the lowest points in my life at that point. Having said that, I think what helped me at that point was having a very clear vision of what it is that I want. So I sat back, in my chair on my desk, and I said, okay, I really want to get into one of the top 5 schools of this country. I believe I have what it takes, and I want to at least give it a really good shot. From a written exam standpoint, I was always very good at verbal ability, and I don't know if the format has changed, but at that time there used to be verbal, there used to be quant, and there used to be logical reasoning, data interpretation, stuff like that. So I used to always be very good at VA, always very good at logical reasoning, data interpretation, but my quant scores were never good enough, right? And that's why I would not make those individual cutoffs, etc. And I realized that for me to be able to realize this vision that I have no option but to really just cut myself off from the world and single-handedly focus on, preparing for this exam. Because if I didn't get over that fear, if I didn't sharpen my quant skills, right, I would not be able, it didn't matter how good I was at a GD, how good I was at a PI, I would not even get to that stage, right? And that was a risk I took. I decided, I think we graduated in May or June, I don't remember. And at that time, CAT used to be in November. So I decided to take those 6 months off, right? And I just stayed at home, no job, no institute, nothing in hand. And I just created a plan to really ramp up that aspect of my written exam paper. And it worked, right? So it was a risk. I did fail pretty badly when everybody else was succeeding. But eventually it did work out. Maybe 6 months later, maybe 1 year later. But it did work out. And after that, things have been good from an education and career standpoint, right? So that's the first story. And I'm sharing this because I feel that a lot of you, and I hope all of you, get whatever you want at the first go, but this is something that may happen, right? And I just want to leave you with the fact that it's okay if it happens. Life doesn't end, right? You have a very long life ahead of you. Important is that you get clear about what you want and make sure that you do what it takes to make it happen. That's number one. Number two, very quickly. I told you, I did a summer internship at PNG, Singapore. I loved the company and I really wanted a final job offer there, right? And there was me and there was another batchmate of mine. I will not name him. Both of us had been given internships. He was interning in India. I was interning outside. And at that time, when the PPOs, the pre-placement offers came out, there was only one offer that was made. And guess what? It wasn't made to me, right? And it was a huge blow. It was a huge setback, right? I really wanted that. Sorry. I really, really wanted to join that company. And as you will see, it becomes almost, I mean, it sounds silly now when you grow older, but at that time, you really, it becomes almost a pride point. You take it in your ego, you feel the worst has happened, you see your friends around you, everybody's, coming out of their internships with a lot of success. Most of my friends had got PPOs. Again, I felt really, really bad about it. Right. But so I sat in my room for 2 days. I cried. I called up my father. I told him to book tickets for me from Jamshedpur to Delhi. I said, I'm coming back. I don't want to be here anymore. And these are all true things that happened. Right. When PNG came for finals, I think they came for the next round of summer internships. I refused to meet them. That's how immaturely I behaved. Right. All out there. I said, you don't want to give me a job. I don't even want to meet you. Right. I mean, that's how badly I took it. But slowly by slowly, I realized that I can sit around and feel bad about the fact that I haven't got this job. Or I can pick up the pieces and see what I can do about it to get another really good job, right? Because there are a lot of other good companies as well that come to campus. And when that hit me, I really put myself together and started working on my grades, started working on getting live projects, corporate interaction, all of those things that are needed to really build a strong resume and get a good chance at the final placements to get into another really good company. And in fact, when somebody from PNG contacted me, because we're a nice company and we like to take care of everybody, including the people we don't give offers to, I made that person, I still remember his name, Surya Rai. He's no longer with the company. I made him make my resume. And I told him that, look, you guys didn't give me a job, but it's your duty to help me find another one. That's how entitled I was. I made him, polish up my resume, give me tips, tricks, etc. Really went the whole 9 yards. And I was all ready for the final placement offer. And guess what? In November or December 2009, I get a call from PNG. Just when I've made up my mind that everything is, everything is okay, I'm going to probably be able to go to another good company, etc. They called me and they said, hey, you know what? We have another opening, which we feel is a lot more suited to what we had initially. And we'd like to make you a final offer. And if you'd like to take it. And that was such an amazing feeling. It came out of nowhere, right? And again, for me, the big learning there was that, if I just get over the bad things that have happened to me and give it my all and look ahead, things do fall into place, right? So this is again a story that could have been a failure story and eventually turned out to be a success story. So these are the two quick examples that I could think of, which I think many of you will be in similar situations, not too much in the future. So that's the last thing that I'd like to leave you with, right? That don't be too worried about what happens when. Just overall, it'll work out for you as long as you stay true to what you want. And that's the last that I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shweta. You have really shared your real experience. Everyone share the success story, the happy times, and you have demonstrated the courage that is required for a person to stay on track during not so good times. I don't say it's bad time. Not getting an opportunity is not the end of our career. So not so good times, I would say that is the word I would like to use. We are really happy that, you are here for sharing your experience. I'm sure it would prepare many of the students who are now in first year, second year, third year, that they will also be, able to stand up to any of the challenges, life challenges, career challenges, and stay on track during not so good times. Particularly, you have seen during COVID, for last 1.5 years. Many people didn't get any placement, even in IITs. The placement ratios have sharply fallen, because when you close industry, when there is an economic activity, why would the firms will employ and hire people? They think of, okay, let's wait when we restart our operations. They would be able to know actually what is the demand position of their goods and services, and accordingly go ahead with recruitment. So you are really an inspiration to all our students who are attending this session. A lot of more people have come, but no one had shared such an experience, despite they may have an experience of such kind. Maybe they did not want others to feel sorry, or others to feel unhappy about it. Okay, so many times even our own parents don't tell us all the sad experience they have had their life, because they think, why would we trouble our children? So that may be the way some people think. And you have been a wonderful student of SV College, and you are no less than a brand ambassador of SV College. We will continue our relation, and as I said, we are going to have very big alumni association. We are going to create a proper structure for the association, so you will be given a suitable responsibility, so that you will continue to connect with your students. As you said, you are the largest batch in our now session. Madam Aruna Rao is also there, who taught you microeconomics. Ma'am Aruna Rao, is she there? Ma'am is there? Ishita, do you
Yes,
see?
I'm here.
Yeah. Ma'am, please switch on your video for a minute.
Okay. So you want my students to see the changed picture, huh? From black hair to white hair, gray hair. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That
ma'am is now no less than Indira Gandhi, Madam Indira Gandhi.
Yeah, it's the reverse. Indira Gandhi had black hair with a white
Yeah.
streak. I have white hair with a black streak.
Yes.
So it's the negative of Indira Gandhi.
Correct. We saw a lot of her photographs when in our childhood with brand saris that she would have, and that brand hairstyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. So Shweta has been doing excellently well, ma'am.
Yeah.
And now Mrunalini is going to speak.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, Mrunalini, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Hello, ma'am. It's very good to see you.
Yeah.
It's really weird to be on the other side of this, because I distinctly remember listening to visiting lecturers who came in. I remember Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia had come during our time. We also had an alumni session. So it's really weird to be a part of the speaking group rather than the ones at the other end. But I'm very thankful for you to have invited me. And it's actually really great that Shweta went before I did, because our paths are very, very different. And, there is so much to contrast, but some of the key values that come along with success remain the same, even though our paths are so different, and our professions are so different. I think it just boils down to how you approach your professional career. It impacts your personal life as well. So some of the decisions that you're going to take are really going to have that impact on both facets of your life. It's past midnight for me, actually. So I hope I'm not rambling. I'm drinking a lot of water to keep awake. But congratulations, Shweta. A baby is great news. I too am a mother to a toddler, so I can understand being on maternity leave and all that comes with it. I started as an accidental student of economics. And I don't have slides, sorry. I'm a journalist, so I don't do very well with corporate things like making slides and, talking about keywords. It's just, I was never trained that way. It's not the way I am, so sorry about that. I would encourage you to please jump in and ask me questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about my how I got to where I am, some of the challenges that I had, some of the things that I feel I overcame, and some of the things that I think can help anybody who's looking to find success in their career. So I am an accidental student of economics, as I mentioned before. I was a science student in high school. I didn't want to become an engineer. I didn't want to become a doctor. So the only third option I had to take with science was economics, and I took it, and I loved it. I've always wanted to be a journalist, and I would have ended up in BA journalism, but it was something that after a lot of research, I figured, what if I don't want to do journalism after 5 years? Then I'm stuck with an undergrad degree and probably be unemployable in any other profession. So that was kind of a hedge that I took, and I'm glad I pursued economic honors and I came to Venki, and just I had a great group of friends, an amazing set of teachers, and the whole college experience was not just about learning and having fun. It just sets the stage up to help you navigate what you're going to face in your life going forward. School still seems to be a little bit of a protected environment. College is when you start having interactions with people as adults, right? That's how you're going to be dealing with adult people for the rest of your life. So you start building up your personality, you start building up your approach of how you're going to interact with people, you start having opinions for the first time, and you start making important decisions about your life, like, what's the career you're going to choose? Are you going to pursue further studies? So it's a fantastic time. It can also be confusing and overwhelming. So the first tip I have for anyone is that no decision you make is final. If you don't know what you want to do, it's perfectly fine. I knew what I wanted to do, but not everybody does. So it's okay to try new things. You can look at internships, get projects, speak to people, find mentors. Just arm yourself with enough knowledge to make the most informed decision. Your decision may be correct, may not be correct. You might not end up doing what you want to, but have an approach of making an informed decision. And it's okay not to know what to do. So I knew what to do, so I took up economics, but I always knew I didn't want to go down, the seemingly natural progressions of either going for an MBA or higher studies in economics, or taking up a consulting job like a lot of my other friends and peers did. It was always journalism for me. So I spent my 3 years learning about economics. I had no idea I would end up becoming a business and finance journalist. That also was accidental, I want to say, but having studied economics in college kind of helped nudge me along in that way. As you heard Professor Reddy talk about this, that we did macroeconomic projects, and that kind of that was the first time I remember doing that project. And that was the first time I actually started making connections of theoretical economic knowledge to what's happening, what can happen in the real world. And that's when the gravity of economics actually dawned upon me, because if you look at everything, it has the basis is always economics, whether it's stuff that you buy for your house, whether you're making decisions of investing or saving your money, whether it's politicians deciding what policies to implement. A lot of those decisions are driven by economics. So I think one of the things that a course like this gives you is the ability to think critically and make those connections. And it's not just and once you develop that critical thinking muscle, right, you'll start seeing those connections, start joining the dots, not just for economic things. You'll start seeing patterns. I feel I see patterns faster and identify connections and relationships because of what I learned. That's what the critical thinking muscle does. So I think a lot of that comes from what we studied in our course in economics. So that was really helpful. What I did after studying economics at Benki was I immediately went to do my master's in journalism, and I joined Symbiosis in Pune. Literally did not. I had already started my course there even before the DU results came out. Like there was no breather. Once I finished that, I had a couple of internships. I converted one of those internships into a job offer. And I've been a finance journalist for about 10 years, 11 years. Took a year off in the middle to do another master's here in New York. It was a hybrid course between journalism and MBA lessons at the Stern School of Business. And since then, I've been working in New York City. So that's literally just my life. Any questions that any of you have? As I said, I don't have slides or structure here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have about any career paths, any challenges, anything that you think you could benefit from hearing about my journey.
Pranali, I think Ishita had collected a bunch of questions.
Yes, ma'am. I was just asking that,
Yeah.
ma'am, you've studied both in India and abroad. So, what do you think is the major benefit of studying in India or abroad, and how do they both compare?
Okay, so there are two aspects of the comparison that I want to talk about. One is the academic, and the other one is the culture. So let me tackle the academic first. I genuinely feel that our education system is more rigorous. I feel that it's a lot more theoretical than what I've experienced here in the US, but it's way more rigorous. And I can give you an example here. It was one of my Stern classes that we were doing an economics project for, and there was something about solving a very simple mathematical equation. Like we were problem solving and there was some mathematical equation involved, and we were a bunch of 6 people. Somebody was an Israeli national working with a hedge fund. There was there was a Russian computer scientist. There was basically a whole bunch of really diverse, very severely accomplished people. Like I felt as like the most unaccomplished person in that group, because they sound so heavy duty with all these important jobs that they had. And it was a simple mathematical equation, and they couldn't solve it. And I'm here looking at myself and I'm like, come on, somebody in 10th standard can solve this. So I think there's a lot of difference in how rigorous things are. Having said that, the approach here to academics is very, very different. What I experienced was a more interactive, project-based, fact-finding based, and I'm not sure if things have changed since we were in college, but it's not just learning from your professors. The professors are teaching you the theory, and they're talking about the syllabus and all of that. But here you're also learning a lot from your classmates. Like everybody, at least at the graduate level, at the graduate school level, comes from a different background. So they all have different perspectives about where they come from or how they see things. So it's a lot more also learning about from your peers. The cultural aspect of it is on a lighter note is really quite shocking. we're very, very strict about how we're, in college. Like, we come in, we have our places, we listen in class, and, maybe pass notes around here and there. But the first time I went to observe a class, I walked out saying, I don't think I'm going to join an institute like that, because it was a class around lunchtime, and these people sauntered in, and somebody took out a burger, somebody opened a can of Coke, and they were drinking and eating, and generally buzzing around in the middle of class. So getting up and walking out to take a call and coming back. Culturally, it was a big shock for me, but I think experiences in both educational setups have been very, very invaluable. Like, they're really great in shaping up the person that I am today. I got the rigorous educational academic training, and I got very lucky to have had the option of learning from peers from different backgrounds and perspectives.
Thank you, ma'am. There was also yes, sir.
What Mrinalini has said, they joined both Shweta and Mrinalini in 2004. In the University of Delhi, the internal assessment was introduced in 2003 only. So they were the second only batch which had that internal assessment, including house examination and frequent class tests, etc. Before that, students used to straight away go for annual exam. Second, Mrinalini, today if you see the honors structure, it is even more rigor than what you have done. Your course then itself was very rigor vis-a-vis 2-3 years before batches. For example, the batches passed out in 2004, 3, etc. But today, I would share with you the existing structure of the BA Honors Economics. We call it CBCS, Choice-Based Credit System. Even double the rigor, I would say. They do 2 mathematical methods paper. They do 3 microeconomics papers, 3 macroeconomics paper, 1 econometrics. All these are compulsory. In addition to that, there is optional papers, discipline-specific elective. So what she said is very important, that you should all, realize that the course you are doing, the program you are doing is one of the best in terms of the rigor, the theoretical rigorness, the mathematical quantitative requirements. So if you do this course exceptionally well, if you devote a lot of time to it, apart from preparing for management and other exams, I'm sure it is going to really help you. One may not realize it right now. One may think that, okay, I have some other option in my hand. I think something else, of doing it. So this course may not be of that use for me. As she said, economics honors, she became a journalist, I never thought that she would become a journalist. And journalist life, as I see some people, they don't have this 8 hours, a work day. Round the clock, they have to keep their mind, in active mode. Because as and when some news comes, they need to analyze it and present it to the, public. So she opted for even a more, hectic job than usually, girls would prefer, okay, 7-8 hours a job, which would be very suitable for family life and other things. So that is the, in a way, I would say, risk that she has taken. And once you opted for a journalism, I'm sure if she is keen in academics, with just another PhD from the same New York University, she could very well become a faculty member, in journalism, communication. Yes, it's a very important area, which we never thought. 15 years ago, we never thought that, it would have such a very bright future. Thank you very much.
Kind, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're too kind.
Yeah, please pose some questions to her. She is now living in New York. One of the best universities in the world, New York University, is located. I think it is there only.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions, please?
Actually, sir, something that, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but something that you said, I think I'm going to just jump off and expand a little bit more on.
Yes.
The beauty about having been an economics business, financial journalist has been that, journalists are typically not really looked at as one of the top professions. They're not as respectable. They're folks that hang around and run after people and, to get sound bites, and they work really long hours. They don't get paid at all. Terrible pay, right? So every time you would see your peers do really well for themselves, it's possible that you're like, I could have done an MBA, man, gotten that really great job. I could buy a car and things like that. But this I learned a couple of years down in my career, that I was covering the Ministry of Finance. I was an economics policy reporter. And I, on a daily basis, got to have conversation with some of the best bureaucrats, the topmost bureaucrats in the country who were shaping economic policy for our country. And, just to be able to talk to them and question them on why they're doing something, what's their thinking, how they're approaching it, and to be honest, a lot of these people asked me for my opinion. And to be able to tell them why I thought they were doing something that I didn't agree with, or why a certain policy should be certain way, or what potentially you think is wrong with the policy. In a way, having those conversations and really getting a ringside view of how policy for the country is being made is something I couldn't have done without the grounding in economics I had. Like, I talked to Dr. Raghuram Rajan on a daily basis when he was a chief economic advisor. He went on to become the governor of RBI. The current governor, Shaktikanta Das, he was additional secretary economic affairs when I was covering finance ministry. Know him really well. So, it's just, that was kind of a validation that while you're not out there saving the world or doing a more important job, you're actually holding people accountable and asking all the right questions about the policies that are going to determine the course of money and things that impact lives of millions of people in this country. So yes, it's a high stress, long hours, potentially not as well paying career. But if you have the passion for it, if you have the drive, it's a very satisfying and a very fulfilling career.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thinking about journalism with economics, it's just a very diverse mix. So I would like to ask you that how did your time at college prepare you for the workforce and the real world?
Well, I think at college, it was pretty much, as I said, when you enter college, and this is non-academic, let me start with non-academic and I'll get to academic in a bit, but you're adults, like you're new adults when you enter college, and you're meeting with this insanely diverse set of people, interacting with companies and, seniors and professors as an adult who has opinions, right? So this is where you start coming out with who you are, really. And just the set of people that I had the opportunity to interact with really helped me form some of my initial opinions and perspectives of life. And that it changes. Like, your opinion today is not probably going to be your view of the world, say 5 years down the line, but it'll give you the conviction of having an opinion. It'll tell you how to inform your opinion. It'll help you listen better. You will be able to understand the value of learning from others. You'll see somebody do something really well and you'll be like, hey, I didn't think of it, but maybe next time you're in a situation that demands quick thinking and you look back on that experience and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I could try this. So I think that is one non-academic way of how this prepared me for my career. That just as a journalist, you have to listen a lot. You ask a lot of questions and you listen a lot. You pay attention to details. So all of these things are things that I learned from my interactions while at college. In the academic way, I've already spoken at length about how doing this course really strengthened the critical thinking muscle that I had. Why is something happening? How is this related to this? I was a stock markets reporter, so something happens in the economy and it impacts a stock. Why is it happening? How long is it going to impact? What are the further ramifications? You start thinking about those things, and that helps you get better at a job. I had a boss once who told me that they valued me because I could make those connections. Because as a stock markets reporter, any development that happened anywhere in the country, if there was a connection to a stock or the stock markets in general, I would find it, right? So if you start applying your critical thinking muscle, you're going to make those connections. And if your job demands it, it's a big plus, right? My job demanded it, and that really helped me.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am. I request if anyone has any question, they can write it in the chat box. Yes, ma'am, there is another question that I had. What advice do you give to students who are looking for the future careers or future programs to apply to?
In journalism?
No, ma'am, in general, or maybe journalism, you can tackle both of the.
So I can talk about programs and career path in journalism because that's what my forte is. The only one generic piece of advice I will give, you've heard Shweta say that she does a lot of courses. For me, I set myself to learn one new skill every year, right? You don't have to do that, but I feel if you diversify your skill set, you inherently don't just get better at what you're doing, you're also inherently more employable. I mean, I'm not the HR expert here, but I just feel that you will have an edge over another candidate with exact same qualifications if you can show a diverse set of skills that you mastered. So I personally learn one new skill every year. Sorry, Ishita, I'm getting a lot of noise in the back.
Yes, I request if anyone. Yes, ma'am, it's muted.
So try and learn. I'm a journalist. I used to do TV. I now do digital journalism. I spent some time learning how to code. I spent some time learning how to do data visualization. Those are skills that I don't use in my job day to day, but those are skills that I can fall back on when I need to do a data heavy or a visualization heavy project that I work on. So those are things that my managers across companies have valued. I've been hired for that reason, not to particularly do that as my primary job, but as it's a good skill set to have. So that's the advice that I would leave you guys with. Try and learn one skill, if not every year, but as soon as possible. Don't get too comfortable doing what you're doing. Stay hungry. If you're too comfortable, you're not going to grow. If you stay in the same place too long, not only are you not going to grow, somebody will think that you're just not worth it. Ishita, is there a way we can mute this, everyone? It's just very distracting. Sorry, it's just buzzing in my ear.
Ma'am, I cannot hear the buzzing, but I request anyone who's switched on their mic to please turn it off.
Who is the Shivam? Shivam? Who is Shivam? He's on hold. External. Kindly mute yourself.
Anyway, so don't get too comfortable, because if your managers see you too comfortable, they're not going to be happy. Challenge yourself to do different things. Again, it's probably not a good example, but I typically try and look for a different project or a profile every 2 years. It helps me not get bored at work. I'm somebody who gets bored if I do the same thing for too long. So, you know, even if it's slightly different, challenge yourself, pick up something new. Do lots and lots of internships, lots of. My first internship was when I was still at Venki. I spent one summer, I think in second year at NDTV. And back then, I don't know, Shweta, if there were too many people in our batch that did internships during college, but they?
Yeah, me included. I did two summers at a design firm.
Yeah. But there weren't too many people though, if I remember correctly. So yeah, do lots and lots and lots of internships. You may never know which internship is going to land your job. My internships, again, like Shweta, during my graduate school, I interned at CNBC and Business Standard, and I converted both those opportunities into full-time jobs. I ended up going with CNBC. But yeah, do lots of internships. And during those internships, always put your hand up. You know, it may not be your job to do something, but if there's an opportunity to learn something, you know, speak to your boss if your workload is manageable and you can put your hand up and help out with other projects. Half of the things I got done in my internship was only because I was like, oh, hey, I have time, I can do this. So, you know, it's not bad to eavesdrop on your internship for new projects. It's what's going to get you noticed. It's what's going to give you diverse experience, and it's what's going to introduce you to more people in the organization. So even if it doesn't work out with the current team or the project that you're working with, somebody else who likes you might give you an offer, right? So
Sure.
As far as journalism schools and courses go, I'm an alum of Symbiosis. The graduate school at Symbiosis for Media and Communications is really great. They have a phenomenal facility in Lavle, which is just outside Pune. You guys might have seen the campus in the movie Bodyguard. That's where it's been shot. But it's a phenomenal state-of-the-art facility. They have edit machines that most TV stations don't have. At least that's what it was back then. If you do have the opportunity to apply for courses abroad, there are lots of fellowships, lots of scholarships, because studying abroad is not cheap. So utilize financial aid opportunities and see if you can get a chance to study abroad. Not because it's cool to get on your resume, but only because it'll just open you up to what's happening outside the world. The world is a lot more open than what it was when we were at college. It's a lot more global. You have LinkedIn and, you know, so many groups, Network Capital on Facebook and all of those things that can help you connect to mentors and people in your field across the globe. So utilize those. It's always better to get out of your echo chamber and listen to what different perspectives exist. So find opportunities to do that.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, ma'am. There is a question that I would like to ask both of you, that there must be competitive exams and interviews that you must have sat for. So what were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those fears? Both of you can go ahead with the answer.
I don't think I sat for any competitive exams that most people who do the course here at Venki do. I did sit for the journalism exams. They were all about current affairs and, you know, English writing skills. And yeah, my math skills were terrible. So my only 2 cents are going to be that, yeah, legitimately took the math exam twice. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but I took my second year maths paper again because I didn't do well in it in the first year and I did equally bad in my second year. So I have terrible math skills. But if you know that you have a weak point, take a leaf out of Shweta's book, hunker down, work on it, you will get through it.
Do
Yes.
you want me to answer that as well, Ishita, on competitive exams?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I think exactly to what Nalini said. I mean, Indian competitive exams are not easy, right? So I think firstly, anybody who tells you that, oh, I was just breezing around and I just freewheeled it, no, it doesn't work that way. I think, and I'm being very transparent here. I think it requires focus. I think there are very few of us who are born with this, and I'm talking very specifically of Indian competitive exams. Most of us are equally smart or not smart, right? I think there's 0.001% of the world that is born genius. For everybody else, I think what really matters is just the hard work, the dedication, the discipline that you bring in, right? So if you're one of those Einsteins, great, good for you, who can just freewheel it and things happen for you. That's wonderful. I was not. I think 95%, 99% of the world is not, right? So break it down, right? Especially I can speak for MBA. I did not give master's exams because I was pretty clear by then that I want a management degree. I think be very, very clear on what each step of the process entails and what your weak points are, right? Do not take it for granted, right? Because at least when you are giving Indian business school exams, every stage is an eliminator stage, right? So it doesn't matter how good you are at an interview or a group discussion or at English. If you can't get the cutoff scores in quant or logical reasoning, etc. So I think one, really invest time on understanding every step of the process, understanding what your weak points are, play to your strengths where you are good, but please understand that everything else cannot be a showstopper. That's one. What really helped me from from the written exam point of view is at least, the CAT, ZAT, all of these papers, there's a lot of practical application that they ask you to do, which at least in our time, our education system did not always expect that of us. So I think a lot of practice is required. So don't waste too much of time on books and reading up theory, etc. Just go out there and solve as many papers as you can in a simulated environment, which is as close to, the exam scenario as it's going to be, right? So don't sit in a place that is absolutely quiet in a perfect environment where nobody's disturbing you. You're not going to get that, right? So time yourself, create that environment. I would go to the extent of, having my pencil box, my water bottle, everything that is ready as close as possible as I could get, because every second counts. I don't know how it is now, but in our time, I think it used to be 120 minutes with 40 minutes for each section or something like that. Right. So I would really simulate myself as much as possible, right? Not get too comfortable. Don't sit on the most comfortable sofa that you have and solve your problems or your question paper. Get as close to an actual classroom. That's number one. Number two, when it comes, so assuming you clear that stage, when it comes to a group discussion and a personal interview, personally, I can tell you, one, as somebody who's gone through this, and now because I'm on the other side of things and I do a lot of recruitment, I think what we really look for is depth. Right? You can make your interview go, I'm talking specifically about the interview here. You can make your interview go any which way you want, right? That one question, that is the first opening question, that tell me something about yourself, is the interviewer giving you a gift in your hand that, hey, here's an opportunity. You can make this interview work for you or not, right? And I've seen personally, and here I'm talking now as a recruiter, right? And even business school interviews are not very different, where people talk about their passion, like they like growing plants, they're interested in different kind of herbs or whatever it is, or fruiting plants or whatever it is, and you scratch the surface a little bit, and you will see that there is no depth there at all, right? So be very careful, be very clear, and just craft out the message very clearly. I used to write down my answers. Questions are not going to be very different. Everybody will ask you pretty much the same thing. Craft your answers and really show, it doesn't matter what you're interested in. My sister's from IIM Bangalore, and in her interview, she was asked, what do you like doing? And she said she likes cooking. And the whole interview was about that. And they said, okay, what kind of cuisine? She said Italian. And okay, what kind of food in Italian? So she talked about pasta. That went into how many different kind of pastas there are, in Italy, what comes from which part of the country, etc. And I think what helped her, I'm giving you an example, is just that very intense knowledge of knowing what she's talking about. So I think that would be my tip about interviews. I think group discussions, again, very MBA specific. We all love putting our opinion out there, but please understand why they put you in these scenarios. a corporate environment or any other work environment, right? Whether you're a journalist, whether you're a business manager, whether you're a doctor, it's all about collaboration, teamwork, respecting diverse points of view, right? So if you're going to go in there and if you're going to hog up all the conversation and only be single-handedly focused about, making sure that your point is made, you're probably going to get wiped out, being very honest. Right. I think what they look for in a personal interview is your ability to get the group together, to elicit the most intelligent collective opinion, right, while being able to also influence and steer the group in a direction that you want. Right. So I think those would be my quick tips on specifically business school, MBAs, MBA interviews, group discussions and written exams. I think for placements also, it's fairly similar. Of course, placements, few companies have written tests, few companies don't. But if you have cracked a competitive exam, in India, I don't think the corporate written test will be very difficult. The GDs and PIs are fairly similar to what you'll see in the business school. So that's specifically for this.
Actually, I want to jump in and add something to what Shweta said about collaboration and competition, right? It's good to be ambitious. It's good to be competitive. It's good to try to make yourself stand out in front of everyone, to be different. But there's a difference between healthy competition and, super intense competitive competition. And you will realize as you grow in your careers that as Shweta mentioned, you cannot grow without collaboration. So it's great to have competition, but you need to understand where the line is between healthy competition that kind of helps you get that drive to grow, and insanely cutthroat competition where you're always looking over your shoulder as to what the other person's doing and wasting your time trying to better someone else rather than growing yourself. And honestly speaking, as a journalist, our competition was of seconds. If someone breaks a story a second before you do, your story is not a story. That's the kind of competition I'm talking about, right? There are no mistakes there. So it's really high stress, and it's very easy to kind of fall down that path of, just doing anything to get that scoop, to get better off someone else. But after a point, you realize when you spend enough time doing that, hey, I cannot get ahead unless everyone on my team is getting ahead. And I think that's a life lesson that I took from my career, that it's great to have drive, it's great to have ambition, it's great to be competitive, but collaboration is equally important. Like, no TV journalist can go on air unless there's an entire team of people working behind the scenes, right? Someone leaves a cable loose, you're not going to make it.
Thank you so much, Pam. That was really insightful. I think in the chat box, Naman has a question from Mrinalini, ma'am.
Yeah. Ishita?
Yes, sir.
You see, Mrinalini is in New York.
Yes, sir.
What would be the time? It would be sleeping.
It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, sir.
Yeah. so I would say,
that's okay. I can take a couple of questions and then I can.
So Naman would be the last one. They will be available, through various mediums like email and LinkedIn and other modes of communication. Number one. Number two, I take this opportunity, we started, giving a small memento to all the distinguished alumni whom we call, who have been doing exceptionally well. So on this occasion, I announced the Distinguished Alumni Award to both Mrinalini and Shweta, who have been exceptional doing well. They're a real inspiration to all our present students. We will continue to bring them as and when they are available from their very, very busy schedules. And also, I take this opportunity to request Mrinalini to coordinate, the Alumni Association of North America. We'll be formally sending an appointment, in this regard to her from our principal side. And with regard to Shweta, we'll be working further with regard to, Delhi is a place where a large number of people still, reside. And also Mumbai, of course, I know a lot of people are there in Mumbai. We'll be continuing to work in this direction. So you have really shared, when you start, presenting, probably you didn't have all these ideas and thoughts to do. So as you begin presenting it, a lot of ideas came in between that you actually wanted to share, and you both were very candid enough. Unlike many others, who present only the rosy side of the life, so that's something special about both of you. Thank you very much. Naman, you will be the last person to ask the question. We need to close the session,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Naman, you're not audible. Can you please?
Naman, not at all you are audible. You can post it, in the chat box. Ishita can read it out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So meanwhile, you can see Krishna Kumar sir has joined. I think he would like to say hello to both of you. You both are also very favorable students to him, as I know during those times. Okay. Yeah, Krishna ji. Is he there? Ishita,
Yeah.
please.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
See, Pranalini and Shweta in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, I am seeing them.
Yeah, please switch on your video.
Yeah, we just
Okay.
because in this one we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I am switching on my video. Am I switched on? Yes, yeah.
Hi, sir. How are
Yes,
you?
yeah.
Hi, sir. How are you?
You're in Delhi, na? You're in Delhi, Shweta.
Yes.
Finally, I know you are in US. You are
Yes.
in US about, na?
Yes, sir.
Nothing. Shweta should do some management of our Delhi's environment also,
Yeah, very much needed. Terrible air it is.
I am otherwise also a person who has serious breathing problem. You can't go out, and if you go out inside also, now the problem is coming inside also. So, from America to India, we are united by number of problems. By COVID, by now environmental problems. So everywhere we have to now be together because it's too much. Not in, I don't know what to talk to you people, but anyway, I remember very fondly both of you. I remember Shweta coming to the college, and possibly her first complaint was to me, saying that she was she had joined the college as #1 roll number, and her roll number is not there only. So that was the first complaint to me. Yeah, that I remember because inadvertently I think her roll number was missing in the list. And then there were series of events. There were some big event managers within the college itself, and their organization was the one which made the Bliss Point go national in the year 2005. It was a tremendous event which they did, which they took a lot of initiative in doing. And Mrinalini is at 1 o'clock up to talk to the students here. But nowadays, day and night.
Sir, I have a toddler. This is the only time I get to myself.
That is the only time when you're free also. So it's working very efficiently for you also is what you're saying. In any case, I am very happy to see you. And I look forward to further your great growth in the world of journalism as well as in the world of management. And nice hearing you, but I could not actually join in the beginning because of some Ismay. Sometimes they're asking for password, but anyway, I have been at least able to catch up some time with you people. Otherwise, anyway, I don't know what to say because usually we meet when you come into college, na? So how much can I artificially keep speaking about, but they were good students. At student time, they were very active and they were in the lead in organizing events as part of Bliss Point. That was also one of their early entry into the managerial field, I think. And they were very good students and they were very vociferous. If they felt that, sir, the class is going beyond a particular time, let us stop. They told, let's stop. They were very expressive about it. But they were saying that only after attending all the lectures. Okay, that's also to be noted because they had all the right and liberties to do that. So they were not people who used never to be, they were there in the class. So like that way also they were very good. And I remember, I think you went to XLRI straight. And Mrinalini had a tour in the world of journalism, which also I really liked because she was good in it. I used to say sometimes in ET Now and so on when she was reporting. And in fact, I think with Brahma Reddy, I went for Mrinalini's marriage also. marriage, some reception function. No? We met here in the Hyatt Hotel. We came for your reception also. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anyway, Shweta, very nice talking to you or seeing you also after some time, because there were people who I love to fight with in the corridor, in the class, for reasons good or not. And even after class, sometimes they found it a very great entertaining exercise to keep fighting with me on issues or non-issues or issues which you could make and fight on. That was wonderful. Those friendly fights I really miss. But you were wonderful, do well, and on and off might be through these platforms. So otherwise, students are also eager to get some sort of mentoring of a different world. But in being corporate or in media, etc., I really feel that when this issue of air quality is coming to hunt us within our houses, at least we should now really start responding. It is too late, It's not leaving any one of us. So today itself, I had to we had to go to the hospital for related reason only. Okay. Anyway, all the best for your endeavors. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So
Thank
good
you,
to see
sir. It
you.
was so good to see you. I know
Yeah.
it was really great.
And particularly when we are not on social networking sites, this is the only time when we meet. Usually, when the students come to the college, we meet. But I'm happy wherever you people are, you be in touch with the society near you and do as well, because that's also very good. The sometimes time management, and it's not it's like a voluntary opting out, because I also feel that managing number of things becomes very difficult. That's the only reason. Okay, anyway, nice talking to you. Thank you so much,
you,
and
sir.
thanks
So
for this
Thank you,
opportunity.
sir.
Okay, I'm just video. Let's switch off. Yeah.
Okay. So Naman had asked a question, ma'am. Rinaldi, ma'am, you did masters from symbiosis, and then job, and then went to pursue another master's degree. So was this transition planned or totally unexpected? And was it easy or highly challenging? Because many of the students have this dilemma regarding whether to take a gap year for job and then go for higher studies.
So it was. I had already been working for about 5 years after my first master's when I decided to start applying for higher studies abroad. And it so happened that I got married and moved to the US. So everything fell into place. And I started school here. So, in a way, it was expectedly unexpected. It wasn't easy. Simply because, as I said, the academic and cultural differences between the two education systems are huge. Also, a lot of learning here in graduate school in New York was self-driven, and particularly because it was a combined course of journalism and finance classes at Stern, the workload was kind of double, and everything was fit together in 15 months for us. I'm not sure how aware you guys are of courses in journalism, but our assignments are not case studies. Our assignments are actually going out, conducting interviews, finding news stories, and reporting them, right? So there's a physical aspect to it. There's a course load aspect to it. But none of that bothered me because I'd already done that once. What bothered me was, and I'll be very blunt about it, unlike a lot of industries where you can kind of start where you left off when you left India, and you just take like probably a step lower and start abroad. Journalism's not like that. So I pretty much had to start at the bottom. So that was very challenging because my first internship here in the US was at Forbes. Yes, great. But I was at 30 years old interning with a class of 20-year-olds, right? They were all people who were like you in undergrad, more energy than me, more great ideas, better view of the world, more in tune with what's happening, right? And here I was, a journalist with like set ideas, 6-7 years of work experience. So that was tough, right? Because here I was at a good level before I moved to New York, and my idea was like, hey, I'm going to move from my job here, go work, go do a course abroad and pick up where I left off from. So that was unexpected. And that was kind of, that was challenging, I would say. Having said that, after the initial moping around for about a couple of weeks where I felt really dejected and really sad that, essentially 7 years of my career got erased from my life and I'm starting at the bottom rung, I realized it was a great opportunity. I realized that not everybody gets to, do 2 masters, switch countries, get a chance to work with some of the biggest brands in the world. And I told myself to just get over it. And ever since I accepted the fact that it doesn't matter how far below I'm in the food chain, as long as I'm doing the work that makes me happy and I'm doing what I'm good at and I'm getting better at it with everything that I do, every skill that I learn, and I define success for myself, it doesn't bother me anymore. So I get that amount of zen and that amount of calmness and, I don't know what the good word for it, like inner peace comes with a few years of experience, but it'll come whenever you need it. The key is not to get dejected. The key is whether transitions are planned or unplanned, just take them in your stride. You might have to take a couple of steps back, but that doesn't mean that you have to be in reverse gear. Like, use them as a learning opportunity and move ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With this, we have come to an end of the session. I would like to thank our alumni for taking out time to inspire all of us. Personally, it was a really great experience for me, and I'm sure that it was a big learning experience for all. Thank you so much to all the teachers, faculty members, and the students for joining in. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And Ishita, feel free to share my email if anybody else has questions. I'd be happy to help out.
Thank you, Mrinalini. Thank you, Shweta.
Thank you. Sir, you're on mute.
I think I'm
okay.
audible.
Yeah. Thank you, Shweta.
Thank you so much for having come. I'm not on.
Thank you for having us over, sir. This was really great. Reliving a lot of those memories, seeing you, meeting Shweta, and I hope whatever little rambling that I could do was of use to somebody on this call.
That's what students like also, rather than organized talk, like interactive is what they like also.
Are you in touch with any of your batchmates in US? Like Gaurav is there, Gaurav Kohli.
Sir, Gaurav and Prachi, I've met a few times. They live very close by.
Okay.
We're not in constant touch, but we kind of message once in a while.
Would you be able to network all the people if I give the details of people who all are there?
Sir, I can try.
Okay. Yeah. So kindly share your postal address. We don't know how to send the memento to Mrinalini. If it is possible, it can be delivered at your parents' house at Delhi.
Sure, sir. That's not a problem.
Shweta, please share your postal address.
Yes, I'm fairly close by.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll meet again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed
my.
Thanks. Bye. Great to meet everybody. Bye.